It's the season finale of the Spanish Princess Aftershow, and we have lies, deceit, freedom, and death, and I even make a new friend. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to Afterbuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome to the Spanish Princess Aftershow. I am your host, Tsahai, and we are in for a great show today. We have our other hosts today. We have Kari in the live chat.
What's up? How's it going, everybody?
And we have Rachel, our expert historian.
Hey, everybody. I am very excited to talk about some of the inaccuracies on this episode.
Yes. Now, as you notice, Virginia's not with us. She's out sick with strep throat, so we send her our love, but we'll still have news and gossip, some predictions, our top 3 deaths of the show, and more for you. So let's get into it. So, okay, it's the last one. Ladies, what were your overall thoughts?
Can the Lady Margaret die already? But I guess she does. But no, it's a good kind of end of this moment and definitely leaves like this. So what happens next? And I mean, yes, historically we know what happens next. But how will this show unfold what happens next?
Now that we know there are 8 more episodes coming. Mm-hmm.
I love how they handled it. I loved how they wrapped everything up, even though it feels like the end of a part 1, and I'm glad that we have another season coming.
Yeah.
I still felt like they didn't leave anything lingering that would have felt off.
Yeah.
It's a good spot to pause. Like it satisfies enough for right now, but leaves you wanting more, which is like a good way to do a season finale for a show, because you do have to wait so long. So when it is like such a cliffhanger, then you're sitting there freaking out waiting, and so this is kind of nice, like, all right, we're good for now.
Yeah.
When are you, tell us when we're gonna get more.
Yeah, the way it ended definitely wasn't like, it left me on the edge of my seat, and it was surprising in a lot of areas, and so I like that they didn't like end it in a soft way. They went out with a bang.
Mm-hmm. And that's the ending. We were talking about this before the show. The ending was probably my favorite moment in the entire season.
Yeah,
just because we were left. The acting was brilliant in that moment, and we were left with basically them saying nothing but saying everything just by their facial reactions and the way that they laughed and grinned at each other in a very telling way.
And we will get into that. So let's start with death number 1, because there were many of them. Henry VII dies. So kind of walking you through that process. At this beginning of this episode, we have, Lady Margaret is ecstatic that Margaret Pole and every traitor has been captured. But then we see, Henry with a cough, King Henry with the cough. Why is it always a cough? It's like whenever you see a character in a show with a cough, it's like, dead. It just
it's the most visibly and audibly obvious way of not feeling well, maybe.
Yeah. So this cough turns deadly, and he's in the bath, and suddenly we see blood. And we were talking about how quickly that this death like rapidly occurred, like in the show.
Yeah, I didn't like that part of it. I feel like I think they might have hinted at it a little bit, but not as well as I think they could have. That's my only fault with this episode, was that even if he was going to die in that manner, I think that they should have showed the progression, especially with just everything that we know about what actually happened to King Henry VII.
Like maybe even 1 or 2 more scenes of him like having the cough, because we get it. We've seen it, like, even if it almost feels cliche in movies, someone coughs, there's blood in their hands, we're like, oh, okay, they're probably gonna die. But it almost, I sat there going, wait, did he drown? Like, it almost seemed like he drowned in his blood.
Yeah.
Because it was like gurgly sound. And then that, I guess, would make it feel like how it was so fast. Of like, okay, sure, if he drowned it, but then I still think he'd be struggling more. But it felt like, what? Huh?
Yeah. 1 minute he's okay and talking to his mom about not looking at him naked.
That was kind of cute, funny though.
But then it also spoke to a mother's love. Like they will know, you could be 65 years old and your mother will still see you as her child, as her baby. And we saw how that connection affected Lady Margaret throughout this episode. So Henry suddenly dies, and it sends his mother into a tailspin because she's trying to figure out how to handle this, in addition to grieving at the same time and figuring out how to make sure her grandson, gets to the throne without any issues. Also, we have Lina. By this time, she's pissed that Oviedo has locked up Lady Pole, and Henry is I'm sorry, Harry is scheduled to get married at this point, and Catherine has not even seen him yet. So then Maggie and her 2 children are put into jail, guys. No, that was so. What'd you think of that episode? I thought it was so sad.
Not as bad for the older son, because I mean, it is a dangerous situation, but he seems old enough they could understand the situation. But the little girl, I feel that would be very traumatic for her. And it's almost good that the other son is at the
With the
monks, because then at least he doesn't have to be in jail. Though Rachel had an interesting theory that maybe more happened that we don't see.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, no, don't.
Do you want me to say it now or wait?
Don't say it. Like, I mean, you can say it now, but I just. So basically, what we're talking about is when Maggie goes to pick up her son.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's hold off a little bit, because that part is so sad, and so let's not forget that part. But at this point in the beginning of the episode,
Well, at least also, I mean, I know it's 1, they're women, and 2, it's such a young child, but I'm glad the mother and child got to stay together, though.
Definitely.
Because they easily could have been like, nope, different spaces
Totally.
and not cared about
They
them.
could have broken the entire family up, but Maggie was in the same cell that her brother died in, which was harsh. I was like, damn. Also, just the visual of seeing this woman and this small child in a jail cell. Fortunately, Catherine did end up helping the family be together, which was very kind of her. We saw a lot of charity from Catherine in this episode, really trying to help Maggie out. And I found that interesting because they started out so rocky at the beginning of the season. So we also, backtracking a little bit, Lady Margaret has also frantically enlisted the help of who was that gentleman? Because I thought it was Dudley at first, but it wasn't.
So Dudley was the guy. Dudley didn't come until later.
A little bit later. But who was the first guy that helped her?
I don't know if he was anyone of consequence.
Okay,
I think
got
he
it.
was just someone who was tending to him.
I loved how that scene, like, he was frantic. He didn't know what to do. It's like he didn't want to get involved, but he knew he had to help her. And Lady Margaret is just like, you better do what I tell you to do. Her mind was working so quickly. It just amazed me how she, like, snapped into figuring out, okay, this is what needs to be done right now.
Oh, yeah, no, she was definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Definitely.
And he's like, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm just going to let her do her thing.
Yes, and at this point, as we mentioned, Dudley does come in a little bit later to assist her and ends up taking all the papers. And this is when everyone else finds out that they've been scheming a bit with the taxes and raising the taxes and wreaking havoc to everyone else, which explains why everyone hates them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they make it very clear that Queen Mother is behind it.
And she's so creepy smart of, who else could we blame and get rid of? And if you notice that council meeting, every other person is like, what? Huh?
Yes.
Did you, what? Like, mouth shut.
Yes. So, because Harry still isn't there, Queen Mother just ends up making all the decisions, as she has been basically the entire time. But at this council meeting, everyone was, there was that one person who was like a little on the fence, like saying, I kind of knew, I felt bad, but I just went along with the plan just to go along with things so I wouldn't get in trouble. And it shows how much power the family had, and it persuaded people to do things they didn't really want to do. Also, there was a scene where Lady Margaret lays in bed with her dead son.
Oh yeah, no, we were like, no. Well, because also as we were talking earlier, if it was TB, you getting next to the blood is contagious.
I know, but that's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
she's old, so as in she doesn't maybe have that much longer to live at that time period, but still, it's like, nope.
I think, like I was saying, I think it's just like, when you are a mom, and I don't have kids, so you know how moms will touch their kids' snot, they're all the fecal matter, everything. Moms are open to just touching anything their kids get into. So I think she was like, I don't care if it's blood. This is my son. I need to have a moment and say goodbye in my own way to him.
Yeah.
I get that, but it was very
It was gross.
Nope.
And just the fact that she would lie in bed with him,
Yeah,
too.
that too.
And, I was getting very creepy vibes.
No, she could have done it where she sat down and rested his head in her lap and I'm like, yeah. Because I feel she could have gone that creepy end of Snap too, of, this is her baby.
Yes,
So
I know it was harsh. But speaking of babies, Afterbuzz is like our baby here, and we want to let you know why we love its hair so much.
And well, the thing we also, I'd say the main thing we love about here is all the different programs we have. So this is a drama channel. There's also sci-fi and fantasy. So if you like this medieval, but you can go a little more on the fantasy side, there's that as well. There's also reality TV, animation, red carpets, all those. And so if you click that subscribe button, you'll be notified of when those new episodes and shows come out. And you can also not click it if you don't want the notifications. And click that thumbs up on the video. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Leave comments down below. If you're on iTunes, leave 5 stars. Let us know what you thought, because 1 through 4 don't work. And thank you for watching, listening, and helping us be the ESPN of TV Talk.
Yes, and thank you to all the thousands of people who have watched and commented every week since we've been on. Well, shout out to our fave, Hubby Joe, always number 1 in my book. We had last week Janessa Swan, Caitlin A. Ree, thank you so much, Regla Vicor, Someone TN, Happy Stars 234, A. Garcia 1995, Elizabeth Julia, and Aino, I think. And then, just the information that we get from the comments is amazing. Like, we did see your comment about the translations being off sometimes. So I think just like how historically they've taken some creative license, I think sometimes they've taken some creative license with the translations as well. So, but thank you for your support, guys. And hopefully we'll see you again next season.
Yeah.
So getting back into this. So at this point, the king is dead and Catherine has found out, and she decides to intercept Harry coming back to London because he's been away. And I love that scene of her intercepting him on the road, and she enlists the help.
Luckily, there's only one road.
There was only one road.
Just one.
And they had the local townspeople who hated him, like both, walking by. And it was great seeing that their interaction there. What did you think of that scene taking place outside, outdoors, and on the road, as opposed to back in London and in the castle?
I feel like it speaks to the episode, because part of this is like getting out and getting a breath of fresh air. And this is really, they've been out together before, but this also really shows how far she's willing to go to be with him. And since we're getting into this too, the scene that she has with him, where she's speaking with him and telling him that basically she'll love him in any way that he wants her to love him, just really spoke volumes about how she feels for him.
Yeah, I think it also shows them bridging a gap. Like, they haven't seen each other in a while, and this road brings them together. And I found it interesting that she was the first person to say, to tell him that his father died. Like, he didn't hear from his grandmother, he heard it from her. So when she said, "Long live the king," I was like, can you imagine coming back and hearing that your dad died? But it seems like they've all prepared themselves from childhood for this to eventually happen, because death means so much.
I also feel like we are starting to see the real Harry. When he learned the news, there was this look in his eyes, and we've kind of seen it before, but in this moment, there was this look of power. Like, yes, the crown is mine. I am going to take control. Like, I think we're finally starting to see.
He's like, finally, I've been waiting.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, because then it makes the transition smoother, because if you weren't prepared, it would be a bit more abrupt, and which would make the passing of the power more difficult and tumultuous.
Right. Yeah. And what I liked about the scene was when, although we would later find out he lied about it, Harry tells Catherine, "Oh, I denounced, Eleanor. I didn't want her. 2 days ago, I told her that I didn't want to marry her." And we later found out that is not true.
We think it's not true.
Okay, we think it's not true. Okay, we think it's not true. Also, while this is all going on and Catherine and Harry are having this reunion, Queen Mother is continuing to wreak havoc and has decided to now put the blame on her conspirator, Dudley, and decides to say that Dudley is the one who was responsible for all the tax changes, and she had nothing to do with it. No one else had anything to do with it. It was all Dudley. Because
easy scapegoat.
Poor, and I hated
him, but I felt bad for him.
I felt bad for Dudley. Like, how'd you feel about Dudley getting the blame put on him.
I dislike Dudley, but I dislike Queen Mother more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did feel some level of, okay, she should be getting this, not him. But I also didn't want him, like, I didn't care that he was going to die either.
Because he was so shady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after what we saw him do to everybody and just the way that he was raising rents, even when people couldn't afford it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy deserves it.
It's more like you felt. I think that said more to his performance that when he's about to be murdered, essentially, of him going from the panic to the anger to the fu, like that emotional roller coaster. Even though he was so horrible, I kind of felt bad of like, well, it wasn't fair that you get absolutely no trial and they're just going to blame you and be like, I wash my hands, peace out.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Lady Margaret is trying to do anything to make herself look like the best person and prepare for her grandson's return because he's now king, and she had to cover her tracks basically. But Dudley, when he got chop number 1,
on the back,
in the back, it's like, did they miss on purpose?
It could happen. Hubby Joe in the chat says, poor Dudley, they should have sharpened the blade.
That's what he was saying as we were watching, too.
Yeah,
and
it happened, though, sadly. They would cut and it wouldn't go first all the way through.
Also, he was moving around a lot, and he was really struggling, and so I think it makes complete sense.
Make that aim hard.
Yeah, and then when they got him the second time, and they were able to actually get in the right spot, even if it was a guillotine, they are notorious for needing to use it a couple times.
But I haven't seen many shows, like television programs, where they make it happen like that. Like Game of Thrones is usually one chop, you're done. You know, this one, the fact that they chose they made Dudley's death longer than they did the king's death. Yeah. If you think about it, you know? So to see chop number 1 in the back, like, we missed, and then chop number 2 is what did it. It was like, wow. And to hear Dudley crying out, for, like, pleading, like, hey, I didn't do this. It really was impactful. So
Neela J in the chat also agrees. Yes, poor Dudley.
R.I.P. Dudley. So then Harry arrives home, and now from this point in the episode, I was like, what do I call him now? I know he's like, okay, I'm now King Henry. So I'm like, no, but what do I call you now? Like for the purposes of this show, I'm going to continue to call him Harry just for our episode until next season. I'll call him King Henry. That's what I'll do.
There you go.
But he's like, listen, my name has changed. I'm a new person, and Catherine and I are getting married. And I was like, I loved how quickly he was like, this is what I'm doing. Everybody know. Because remember, Catherine also, grandmother had kicked her out. She was like, you can't come in here. Lina was kicked out. Poor Oviedo, we'll talk about him, but you were going to say something, Rachel.
Just that we see Harry take complete control, and he seems like he is going to be a good king the way that he's acting. We want him to kind of side with Catherine, which is what he's doing. But there is this
sinister, or
like I almost feel like we're watching Game of Thrones, in that right now he seems like what he's doing is great, and that he's the strong king and you want to be on his side and he's the good guy. But it's going to get to his head, and he is going to start pushing too hard until now suddenly this is like Daenerys, and you do not want you don't want to be under this guy.
Right. And you're right, because at this point also Harry is saving the day. So he comes home, and by this time grandmother has wreaked havoc. Dudley's dead, but Maggie and the children are still in jail. But then he, due to Catherine's request, pardons Maggie and her children. And Maggie hears about the king's death when they initially arrested Dudley and put Dudley in jail. So it's not like, someone came to her. She just overheard it and put 2 and 2 together. Then also Lina and Oviedo. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I got worried because they said we had when we had our guests in, and they were saying, well, they did get married. And I'm all, oh no, we don't know how long they were married, because it's one of those maybe ceremony and then that's it. So I was getting worried.
I know. It's funny because you always think somebody's gonna die. You're like, Rose is gonna die. everybody's gonna die.
When they actually hanged him, I thought that Catherine was gonna get there like 1 second too late,
right,
and that he was gonna even when he got down, I thought that it had been so much trauma on his neck that he was still gonna die anyway, and then he was saying goodbye to her.
So Queen Mother, in addition to messing with Dudley and Maggie, she also decides to lie on Oviedo, say that he stole her Bible, and because she's upset at him for helping Catherine and Lina get to Harry before she could. So she decides to lie on him and not just throw him in jail. No, you get no trial. He just immediately gets hung by his homies. These were guys he was working with a couple days prior.
And I almost was going to give them a start of a pass because they kind of question, wait, shouldn't we have a trial? But they follow those orders, and that's when you should be questioning. You sure, really?
Yeah.
I think he should have protested. I mean, I think Oviedo was just so dumbfounded by this betrayal. But I would be way more right away. I'd be like, no, you gave it to me. Because he kind of holds back of no.
He doesn't call her
It would have been right away.
Why do you think that was? When I saw him being hesitant, I was like, why isn't he protesting more?
I think that he was in shock. That's how I was
just
taking
so
it.
What? No way.
I can't believe she's about to do this to me.
Right.
I know where she's going with this.
Yeah.
Or he's too good that he couldn't imagine someone being so sinister.
Because he had just been working on her behalf. Everything he just took the shoes off the horse. Yeah, and really put himself out there for her. And then maybe it just happened so quickly he couldn't register.
Yeah, but I think what it was is that Queen Mother realized one of the things that came through really fast. She said, "Well, how did they know where Harry was?" And so as soon as she knew, okay, well, she's betrayed me anyway. It was she was really quick.
She had time to process her moves, but he did not.
Yeah.
But before he gets hung, we see Lina and Oviedo have their interfaith wedding.
It was super cute.
so cute.
Sweet.
I know. After all the back and forth with how are we gonna do this? They were at the end of the day, just put the ring on me. I just want to marry you in life or death. That's how bad she wanted it. What did you think about seeing Lina so distraught? When she thought Oviedo had died, was about to be killed.
Oh, that scene! I was almost gonna cry when he's saying goodbye to her.
Yeah.
It got me. I was like, oh, imagine, would you want to stand there and watch your partner die? And it's one of those, you want to be there, those moments that maybe you're that last good thing they see, but then that's the last thing you see of them. It's just oh, I wanted her to be more, I think, I mean, not really a prediction yet, but I think Lina's going to be more mad about this, or I hope she is, and puts those pieces together and be like, this is because that woman, because Lady Margaret did this, this is what happened. My love almost died.
Yeah.
Because I want her to be way more of a snapback on that.
Yeah.
Be do not let that fly.
I agree. I think we'll see her have the same anger that Maggie had when her husband died. Lina will have that because, now this is her husband. This is not her boyfriend anymore. This is her husband. So. But that moment when Oviedo got hung and Catherine and Harry come and save the day, thank goodness it was on time. But there was a moment he was laying on the ground. I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah. I thought he was dead too. I thought it was too good to be true that Catherine would have come back at just the right moment and that he was done.
Yeah. I thought it was adding to the deaths we'd seen in this episode. What were we going to say?
Well, it's a good thing they did. I mean, good for him that they did the hanging that way, because if it had been more on something and push, if the neck snaps, then that would have been done and over with. Yeah. I was concerned maybe if there had been permanent damage of either the vocal cords or because he seemed to be struggling after, and it's oh, could he still die? Yeah.
But he had enough strength to tell Lina that the Pope had in fact given Catherine and Harry permission to be married weeks ago when he read the letters that Lady Margaret had him intercept. I was like, aha! All these twists and turns and these surprises in this episode, I really enjoyed them because I didn't expect that.
Though I wanted Lina to immediately be where are the papers?
Yes, exactly. But I'm glad that they were still able to get the confirmation of that very quickly. Because Margaret at this point has also been pardoned, she goes to try to get her son from the monks, little Reggie. And as you remember, Reggie was told, you're in a monastery now, you can't speak. Rachel, I'll let you have the floor because you obviously have a theory, and I didn't want to go there, but Let's discuss.
For him to be that traumatized,
Yes.
I think there was sexual abuse.
I didn't want to think it. He looked so scared, and it broke my heart to even think about that.
Yeah. But it seemed like the most logical conclusion. He wouldn't be that upset at her for just leaving him.
And this wasn't like years, you know. If it had been that, and then I could understand his I hate you, you left me.
Right.
And even though it's still fresh and he's young, I kind of wondered that too of like, oh no.
Yeah.
That's why he's like, you left me and then this stuff happened
And then
to me.
did you see the way that man was looming over her? And then I'm like, girl, Maggie, how you
Pick him up and leave.
Take him no matter
he's
what.
a child.
Don't let him stay there. Like what would oh, he needs more time. No, girl, he needs you.
Yeah, no, I thought she should have picked him up. He's like, he's your baby. Pick him up and leave.
Yeah.
So thank you, Rachel. Now I'm traumatized. Me and Reggie are
you're
traumatized.
not the only person. Hubby Joe said something happened. Neela J thinks something happened.
No, guy, it just breaks my heart
Well,
to
with
think
current
about.
history stuff, it's
I
probably a
know.
high possibility that
Gosh,
happened
I
then
know.
too.
Oh well, hopefully Reggie, maybe Reggie, we get well soon, Reggie. That's all I can say.
And the fact that at the end of the episode, we know that he got out, but he's still not speaking.
Yes,
So
and she was
that
like-
is the
Yes. So,
Probably.
Harry, we think, is saving the day and granting pardons and, giving everybody what they want. But then we see Lady Margaret going on a downward spiral.
yeah.
Okay. She starts having hallucinations of the two princes that she had killed.
Yeah.
At first, I thought it was Arthur. I wasn't sure who those two little boys were initially. Did you guys realize it immediately?
I think it was I think it might be two separate boys because when she was in the church, she saw two healthy boys running around.
Right.
So I didn't get a good glimpse at them, but then when we went into the bedroom, they
had
were
blood.
all bloody. So I
Yes.
thought it was those boys were separate and those were the boys she had murdered.
Got
that
it.
could be.
Yeah. But Lady Margaret, I mean, is going crazy. And I love the scene where Maggie Pole comes in because she hears Lady Margaret crying out for water, something as simple as water. So I'm like, okay, everything else, the house is moving back in order and people have just simply left her. This woman who a few days ago was running things. Like, I found that really interesting.
I kind of wanted Maggie to smother Lady Margaret.
Or did you think she was going to pour the water on her?
Well, I thought she could have poured the water out on the floor, or I
Okay.
wanted her to get a pillow and kill her.
I'm glad.
I'm like, please. But then again, she's not a murderer, because then you go that way. That Lady Margaret's Maggie is a good person, but I kind of wanted her to.
and that's
suck.
why I'm glad she did it. She handled it the way she did because it just shows how much better of a person she
Yes.
is.
Well,
for
what she
handling
says,
it.
she's like,
Yeah.
I'm the better Christian here,
Yeah.
which in that way is a little arrogant, but in comparison, she's like, you are no good faith person. Like, I am much better in this situation.
Maggie, I was glad to see her back in court looking fresh-faced and fabulous. It was great to see her back where she belonged. But she had been through a lot. And you know who else had been through a lot? Catherine and Harry. We end with this discussion where Catherine gets a letter from her father stating that, hey, heads up, Harry did not send your niece away. I actually did. And I did that because your sister, Joanna, told me that she had slept with Harry. First of all, what kind of conversation is that? Like, hey, by the way, Dad, I did this, or was it like, just so you know, I did this in order to have this power over them?
My question is, now here's the thing. We know that from the way that they showed Harry with Joanna, it looked like something was about to happen. So we
Right.
know this. But my question is, knowing what I know about Joanna and how she was, especially after her husband died, was she telling the truth or not? Historically, like, this is very different than how they're showing how it is in the show. But if we're going to go off the show and what it looks like happened, I guess I could believe that that's how it went down. But I just don't know. Like, I'm finding it hard to. I don't know if her father is lying, or if Joanna is lying, or if Harry is lying. It's hard to say.
I don't know. I feel like it happened. And just from the way the show has been written.
And then even if it happened, did the father really call off the wedding for that reason?
Right.
Or did he not care and he just wants to be, he doesn't want his pride to get hurt. So
True.
now he's saying, yes, it was me.
we end with the scene with Catherine saying, hey, you're telling the truth, right? And Harry's like, yeah, totally. And then he says, you're telling the truth about not sleeping with my brother. So, and she was like, yeah, totally. That's the first time she didn't look sure in her statement. And that's the first time I was like, damn, Catherine, you really lying? I know we talked about this, but I was like, oh.
And then she has to get outside for that fresh air of like,
I made it, barely. And that ending scene was amazing.
Yeah, I think it was both of them understanding that they're both lying.
Yeah, yeah.
And them both going, you cool, we lied? You cool, we lied? All right, cool.
So a marriage built on lies. Yeah. Rachel, you said this was your favorite scene of the whole series.
This was my favorite because it's like one of those things where I think Catherine wants to believe him, but then when it's like the way that they're smiling, their smiles match.
Yeah.
And so I think that was her moment when she realized he was lying to her. Otherwise, she would not have believed it. And she knows, okay, well, I can't question his integrity because then that gives him the right to question mine.
Exactly.
And so I'm in this place where, all right, well, gotta go.
We gotta keep this wedding moving. So that was yes.
Speaking on that topic, Mabel Victory says everyone is lying.
Yes, Mabel. Everybody is lying in this show. But what we loved about it was that it kept us on the edge of our seats, and now we know, okay, there's going to be even more great stuff happening in season 2. So we're looking forward to it. That leads us into some of our special segments. Let's get into our Keeping It Real segment.
I'm sad this will be the last time until 2020, but just to kind of go over this, because there's actually a lot. King Henry VII, as we were touching on, he actually died from tuberculosis. He died in 1509. So, and Catherine's mother, to put it in perspective, died in 1504. Okay. So the way that the show has it is that all this is happening around the same time, but that's just not true.
Got it.
Henry VII was given his last sacraments, so they knew he was going to die. It wasn't sudden like this, but it still was kept hidden for a couple of days before they told people what was going on. So that was kind of true.
Okay.
Then with Queen Mother, she died 2 months after King Henry VII, and she actually was Queen Regent until well, I guess we'll call him Harry still. Until Harry's 18th birthday. Then she died the day afterward.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't really show that the way it happened. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention has to do with Joanna.
Okay.
All of this business with her potentially sleeping with Harry, everywhere I looked, I didn't see anything about that. But there was talk after Elizabeth passed away for King Henry VII to marry Joanna after her husband died. And so the other thing is that in real life, Joanna would have been 28. This is when all this was going on. It was in 1507. She would have been about 28. And Harry only would have been like 16.
Got it.
So not saying that it isn't possible. Most likely the talk of marriage was probably just with King Henry VII. And there was no, funny business otherwise.
Well, I appreciate the creative license you guys took because it just moved things along. And you know how some shows move slowly? This kept on moving. Thank you, Rachel. That leads us into our news and gossip segment.
Afterbuzz TV News.
So, during the week, I'm all up on everybody's IG from the show, and I just I pulled a couple of photos. So this photo is from Nadia Parks, a.k.a. Rosa, and it shows the cast. We have Rosa, we have Maggie, we have Lady Margaret, and we have Lina and Catherine and some other crew members all laughing together. And what I loved about this is we haven't seen Lady Margaret laugh. So,
never.
We've never seen her laugh, so I thought
only
it was...
in a cray-cray scary laugh.
But she's living her best life. Look, everyone who's not friends on the show is friends in this picture, so I love that. And the caption says, "The real shoot behind the Harper's Bazaar exclusive." And she tells us, there's a final episode tonight.
Aww.
And then there's another one of the ladies having fun and hamming it up, and because Rosa had to leave before everyone else, so this was probably towards the end of her time shooting with them. Then we can move on to a picture of our Catherine, aka Charlotte. It says, "It's the Spanish Princess finale tonight. Catherine was a dream come true for me, and I'm so proud of our show and our dream cast and crew." So looking beautiful. And then we have the ladies again. So Awkward Crone is the name of our Meg, the young lady who played Meg. And it's a picture of Lina, Rosa, and Catherine. And her caption says that in the next photo, it says, what I love, the final episode of The Spanish Princess, please appreciate these absolute goddesses. Charlotte totally nailed playing Catherine, her intelligence, her strength, even her flaws. I can't imagine anyone else playing the role. What I also found out in this caption is this was Nadia's first job, which Emma and Matthew said in our interview last week. So that was great, and we'll move on now to my new best friend, Aaron Cobham, aka Oviedo. I happened to just mention that I had just watched the show, and we had a bit of a correspondence, which I was so excited about. I commented on his picture. It was his caption said, basically it was the finale tonight, and I said it was so good, great job. And Aaron said, thanks, man. The showrunners and writers did an incredible job making the story as incredible as it was. I said they were all amazing. We loved getting to know Emma and Matthew when they were here at AfterBuzz. You guys should definitely check that out. And I invited Aaron to come through next time he's in LA, and he said, Emma and Matthew are lovely, and the next time when I'm in LA, I'll definitely pass through. Hey. And he said he's even watched our after show, and he thought it was cool. So hopefully we'll have Aaron and more cast members and crew members come by next time. So before we go, let's wrap up our top 3. So we decided to give you the top 3 deaths of this episode. Ladies, I'll start with you.
Dudley.
Why?
Just because I wasn't expecting him.
Your Afterbuzz TV prediction.
Yes. We'll give you our top 3 and our predictions at the same time.
Okay, cool. So Dudley, because I was not expecting him to actually die, and I wasn't expecting it to be like that. I didn't like him, but I didn't expect it like that. And I also didn't expect that he was going to get hit like 3 times before his head actually came off.
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
And then my predictions for next season, I think that we're going to start to see King Henry VIII in full force. I think that he is already cheating. And I think that basically, not just cheating, but lying to her in so many ways. And now he has the keys to the kingdom to do with what he wishes.
Yeah.
How about you?
I want to say Henry VII's death, if only because we knew he was going to die for our Harry to take over. But it was still like, what? Huh? It happened just so fast that he wrap it up. It was just so unfortunate. Not the best way to die, naked in your bathtub and your mom there. So that was unfortunate. And for next season, we did get talks that Meg would be more around because we left her, that we don't know what happened with her. I agree that Harry is fully coming into it, and we've seen glimpses of what he's going to be like. I just wonder how long it's going to be before Catherine realizes, maybe I should have picked someone else or gone back to Spain, and Harry's not the one for me.
Yeah. My top 3 death was Arthur's, because it's Arthur's death that kicked all of this off. It set everything in motion, and without him, had he not died, things would have been very different for all of these characters. So that was my number 1. Also, my prediction, I think, Maggie's back on the court. Things are good right now, but what if Maggie's really a spy? She was just playing for the other side, working with her cousin, and now suddenly she's back in the house. Is she going to be someone that they can trust, or is she going to be working both sides? So I look forward to seeing this next season. My name is Tsahai. You can find me on Instagram at SayHiTsahai. Ladies, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me online at Kari D. Lane. That's Karidlane.
And my name is Rachel Goodman. You can find me on Twitter at Rach Goodman. If you are a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the AfterBuzz show is next.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you, and see you next season.
See
Bye.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.